It looks like Serena Williams might not actually be leaving tennis after all, even after that much-publicized exit hardly a month ago at the 2022 US Open. The legendary athlete recently shared that she wasn't actually retired from the sport. If you want to know exactly what she said and how Serena is going to continue this new phase of her career, stick with us, because we've got all the details. Anyway, let's get right into it. First things first. Williams drops "not retired" bombshell. After that announcement in Vogue about her retirement, Serena had every tennis fan in tears, realizing that she might not step back on the court again, especially at the US Open earlier this year, where after she lost to the Australian tennis player Ajla Tomljanovic at Flushing Meadows, the athlete, who is arguably the greatest of all time, gave a pretty emotional goodbye as she hung up her racket for what most people thought was for good. Well, apparently not. The pro athlete spilled it all in a recent press conference in San Francisco. She was actually promoting her investment company, Serena Ventures, but naturally, the topic went to her career, where she dropped that "not retired" bombshell backflip. The 24-time Grand Slam champion even went on to say that the chances of her coming back to the sport were very high, and that she even had a court to train in at her house. Next up, Serena talks about her evolution away from competitive tennis. To be fair, the tennis legend had always avoided using the word retirement in all her announcements and interviews to describe her exit from the sport. Even in the major announcement, she described it more as her just evolving away from tennis. At the TechCrunch Disrupt conference, where she was really there to promote her investment company, which has already raised $111 million in the past year alone, Serena shared that she started the company a while ago, and so she just jumped right into that. In fact, she even revealed that she didn't even think about the whole retirement when she made the announcement back in August. What's more, she also said that she still hasn't really thought about it, but something's definitely changed for sure. The 41-year-old shared that she stepped on the court the other day, and for the first time in her life, she realized that she wasn't playing for a competition, which was a really weird experience in her opinion. Interestingly, she described it as the first day of the rest of her life, and so far, she's been enjoying it. At the same time, she's still trying to find the right balance that works for her. Coming up, Serena's hinted at her return to tennis before this. This backflip actually isn't that surprising to those fans who have been keeping up with her interviews lately. Just a month ago, in an interview with Good Morning America, Williams hinted that she wasn't ready to step away from tennis just yet. Specifically, when asked if she'd ever return to the sport, Serena said, "You never know," and then went on to say that Tom Brady had actually started a really cool trend. This is in reference to the NFL superstar, who announced back in February that he was retiring from the sport, only to later reverse that decision, joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this season. So it looks like Serena isn't the only athlete that's made a backflip this year. Williams also shared that tennis had been such a huge part of her life so far that she just couldn't imagine a life without it. And while she didn't know exactly how, she did want to stay involved in the sport somehow going forward. Speaking of Serena's not retired bombshell, let's talk about 8 of the best sports comeback stories of all time. Serena and Tom Brady aren't the only people who said they'll be retiring only to return. Whether it's athletes coming out of retirement to win a championship, an underdog taking down a Goliath, or even someone returning from a major career-ending injury, sports offer all kinds of amazing comeback stories. Let's dive in. Starting off with Michael Jordan. The person who is arguably the greatest of all time in the world of basketball also had arguably the best comeback story in the game. At what was pretty much the height of his career, Michael Jordan shockingly retired after the 1993-94 NBA season, going from 3 straight NBA championships with the Bulls to play minor league baseball. Yep, Jordan dabbled in the Chicago White Sox system before finally returning to the NBA with what's pretty much the most eloquent comeback message of all time: I'm back. Say what you want, but his comeback was legendary. He went on to lead the Bulls to 3 more NBA championships, clearly proving that he was the best NBA player of his generation. Up next, Muhammad Ali. After winning the World Heavyweight Championship against Sonny Liston when he was just 22 years old, Muhammad Ali became a name on everyone's lips in every corner of the world. Strangely, a few years later, the athlete refused to enter the draft and even didn't box for more than 3 years. Then, Ali made his comeback, winning his next 2 fights before losing to Joe Frazier. But the comeback run after that was something for the history books, including his rumble in the jungle against George Foreman and Thrilla in Manila, and even taking on Frazier again. That comeback lasted for a good while. Muhammad Ali continued fighting and becoming a worldwide sensation until he was 39, finishing with an impressive 56-5 record. At 3rd place, we have Michael Phelps. Just like Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps was at the height of his career and already one of the most decorated Olympic athletes ever when he decided to retire after the 2012 Summer Olympics in London. But just a couple of years after that announcement, Phelps changed his mind and decided to return and prepare for the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio. It had been a while since he'd competed, so he had to change the way he trained, ate, and recovered to set himself up to win yet another gold, which was exactly what he did. This is a list of the greatest sports comeback stories. After all, Phelps managed to take home 5 more gold medals and 1 silver to get his total to 28 overall medals in his career. Following up, Tiger Woods. Of course, we had to bring up the person who's arguably the greatest of all time in golf. Tiger Woods had to take 2 years off his career to deal with some personal problems off the golf course, as well as some serious back injuries. But when he came back, it was harder and faster than ever. Woods won his 15th major career championship, the Masters, back in April 2019. And while the golf player had already won his first tournament in 5 years at the Tour Championship in September, a year before that in 2018, this win at the Masters was actually his first major in 11 years. And so, after dealing with back injuries that many people thought were going to end his career for good, Woods came back to win his 5th Masters green jacket at Augusta, poetically the same place he won his first major in 1997. Now, for Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Money Mayweather actually retired more than once, but one thing remained constant every time. He came back better and stronger every time. In his most recent comeback, Mayweather fought one of the most profitable fights in his career, his matchup with Conor McGregor. The fight went all the way to round 10 before the referee finally called it in favor of Floyd, putting him down in history as a legend. Apparently, he won $300 million from the fight, and it let Mayweather end his career on an undefeated 50-0 record. Moving on, Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning has long been considered to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, even before he won a Super Bowl with the Indianapolis Colts. Unfortunately, he had to miss an entire season back in 2011 because of neck injuries and a spinal fusion surgery, which pretty much ended his career in Indianapolis. People thought he was gone for good, but Peyton surprised everyone by signing with the Denver Broncos and going on to have one of the most prolific seasons in the NFL season. Especially during the 2013 season, Manning hit records with almost 50 2,500 passing yards and 55 touchdowns. Even cooler, he led his team to a Super Bowl win in the 2016-17 season. If there's one thing that's for sure, Manning definitely knows how to do a comeback. At 7th place, Brett Favre. After finishing an incredible run with the Green Bay Packers that included a Super Bowl win and many MVP awards, Brett Favre called it a career back in 2008, only to come back a few months later. Unfortunately, he couldn't go back to his old team, as the Packers had already replaced him with Aaron Rodgers. And while Favre didn't win another championship during his comeback, he did play for 3 more years and led the Vikings to the NFC Championship, eventually losing to Super Bowl champions Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. Finally, George Foreman. Boxing legend spent 10 whole years out of the ring before deciding he wanted to return. He was nearly 40 years old at the time, but he impressed everyone by fighting for 1 more decade and setting the record for the oldest living world heavyweight champion when he beat Michael Moorer. And that's a wrap for this video. What do you guys think about Serena returning to tennis? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.